The gentleman's recognized. Morgan.
I believe in the bill, it is not. I think the gentleman is correct. It is not clear because it says only if the noise violates a current standard. The staff is thumbing through the bill trying to find that. And that standard in terms of noise relates back to a time when we had more scattered approaches. And now we're getting complaints, even though the individual aircraft may not be violating that noise standard, the repetition of aircraft all in that narrow corridor is creating a problem for the people who live directly under it. And, you know, we're having enough trouble getting the FAA to look at varying approaches. Mr. Capua and I have met with the FAA to say, do you really have to use that same exact corridor every time? And they're like, well, no, but that's the most efficient one for saving fuel. We're saying, well, maybe we're not going to be able to save quite as much fuel as you want because it's making that area underneath that particular approach uninhabitable. And maybe you could vary that approach, you know, during the week and still have it safe and still have it as efficient as possible, but not ultimately the most efficient every time, every plane route. The bill would not allow for that. It just says if the individual planes in that approach don't violate that standard, then it would be up to the corporation, not the FAA. The FAA could only intervene when the individual planes are exceeding. That's my reading of the bill. Now, that may not be true, but it is ambiguous. The Secretary was ambiguous when she said the FAA would still have authority. I really don't want to be put in a position, I've already mentioned it with user fees, when suddenly we're capitating passengers and coach passengers are paying more and first class are paying less per head in terms of their ticket prices. You know, that you can only appeal to the corporation to change the user fees, not to your elected representatives. I don't want to be in a position where noise complaints can only be appealed to a private corporation and not to the elected representatives of the people. And I think the bill takes us there. It seems like it's the chairman's intent not to go there. I think this language needs some work, if I can say that. Whether or not you accept this amendment, I would hope the chairman would agree that we will look at that and try and sketch out the intent that the FAA still has the authority, working with the new private corporation. We certainly don't want to exclude them, but the ultimate authority would lie with the FAA if the corporation and the FAA disagree, because the corporation says, well, that's the most efficient approach. I don't care about the noise. And the FAA says, no, we want to vary it. Noise level provision, I'm sorry, that was in the Trump plan, but not this bill in terms of that specific standard. But in any case, I share the gentleman's concern. So that specific standard wasn't in there. But Ms. Chow was quite vague in terms of FAA having final authority.
And